Hey, this is Professor Homa. Welcome back to part 3, and we're troubleshooting a little bit after running our function, and I can see it's not displaying the street address. And I checked out my code, and this looks okay. Everything looks okay, and then can you see what's wrong here? I finally found it. The city-state zip, or it's actually the street address, these two things are the same. So that they're using the same ID here. So this ID, the street address, should be using the ID of street address. City-state zip should be using the city-state zip. So this one is wrong. I didn't copy and paste this part to here. So I'll save that and I'll refresh it again, and this time and now I'm getting a 3-line address, which is what I want. And I probably want a little more space above here, which I can adjust my CSS. I can maybe even make it bold. I can maybe make it a little bit bigger, which I could do that with my CSS. Maybe I'll do that. I'll go over here to my CSS, and for this full address, I'll change this to like 4M, and maybe I'll do a font weight. I'll see what that looks like. I'll go back, and you can see it adjusted already, even what's displayed there. That's my shipping address that's displayed there, and you can see it put some things together. It concatenated everything the way I want. This is actually what I want, except what we want to do is if we refresh this and we don't put anything in there, it just puts a comma. And we want to actually make sure that people put everything in there. So we're going to use an if-else statement and make sure it validates and gives a warning if you don't fill out all the fields, because these would be required fields. We'll put all the if part if you don't fill things out, so then you'll get an alert message, and then the else will be once you get everything filled out, it'll just be easier to do that. Then we'll put this in the else. So I'm going to start some code to do that. Okay, I started off a conditional statement here, and I just put if first name dot length, and I don't have it spelled right, and that usually helps. If length equals 0, and you could do first name equals, you could put blank quotes there, but we're going to use kind of length here, which is basically the length of the character. So basically if first name dot length equals 0, I'm going to put a condition here, and what's going to happen is I'm going to do an alert, and in the alert I'm going to put please fill in your first name, and we'll change this because we'll just do it for all the fields. So that's going to be the alert that actually happens if you don't put anything for first name. And then we're going to do an else, and I'm basically going to put this part, and I'll tab this stuff over, and this is where I'll put my else. And I'll tab these all over. And I'll close that off with a bracket so that the else has a bracket and the if has a bracket. And I'll put that down there. Maybe I'll tab this over. So everything's kind of lined up. There's my opening closing for my if, opening closing for my else, and my opening closing for the function. And remember, this is outside of the function because it's not going to run the function inside the function. And basically what should happen now, if I don't fill in the first name, it should ask me to, it should do this little alert message. So I'm going to try this out and see if it works. And I'll just refresh it, and I'll just hit submit, and I should get a message that says please fill in your first name. Alright, so I'm going to, even if I just put in R, it should work. And I'll hit submit, and it did that. So obviously I don't want people filling out that. We want to have it at least, you could have one initial, but what we're going to do is we're going to write conditions for all of these, and we could use OR statements. What we're going to do in here is we're going to put OR. So between all these we're going to put double vertical slashes, and we're going to put a different condition. So I'm going to copy this and just paste it, and we'll put different conditions here, and we'll also last name, and maybe less than or equal to, we'll do like a less than or equal to 2. Oh, we'll say 1 because you could have a last name with 2 letters. So we'll put less than or equal to 2 or 1. We'll put that in there for last name length, and then we'll I'll put that on its own line there. You could do the same with else, but I'll put that there. So these are all my OR conditions. Now, one thing I do have to do here is I have to put all of these things in parentheses. Because since we have multiple parentheses, I have to enclose them all. Because it's all one big if condition, we have to put double parentheses since we're using all these OR statements. So I'm going to save this and see what happened so far. I'm going to go back and refresh this, and I'll hit submit, and I get that please put in your first name. And I'll put in first name. I'll use mine this time. I'll hit submit. And it's saying first name. So obviously we should change that so it doesn't say first name. And I'll put my last name here. And then I'll hit submit. And again, I'm still getting an error message. I'll put 1, 2, 3. And I'll just put Amber Way. I'll just make up a name, and then I'll hit submit again, and I'm still getting an error because I didn't put anything in here. I'll put Allentown. Submit, still getting an error, which is good. I'll put in a P. I should still get an error, and I'll put in my zip. And it's not doing anything yet, so I need another digit here. I'll hit submit. It's not going yet. Another digit here. Now it's working. So now that it did all those, it satisfied all those conditions, and you can see it did turn the PA into capital. What I'll do is I'll put one generic. I'll just put please fill in all of the fields. Put an exclamation mark. I'll save that, and I think we're good. That's all we have to do. It's not a lot here, but it's just working with some ORs, working with some, and I just want to make sure that that when we refresh, that everything goes away. Please fill in all fields. I forgot my zip code here. Now we didn't specify where, so it identifies where exactly you're missing something, which sometimes is helpful, but just for now, there it is. It's displaying that. We could also send this information back to an email if we had like a form set up, a PHP with a form, but that's pretty good for now.